Chosen one, before you scroll away, I need you to understand something. What you are about to hear is not background noise. It is not content you stumbled across by accident. Something in you already knew, before you even pressed play, that today was going to be different. That this moment was going to reach somewhere inside you that most things don't reach anymore. So, stay. Because what comes next was built for exactly where you are right now. There is a reason you are hearing this today. Not yesterday, not last month when things were slightly easier to carry. Today, in this exact season, where the weight feels heavier than it has in a while, where the questions are louder than the answers, where you've been wondering quietly whether any of this actually leads somewhere, that wondering is not doubt. That wondering is a spirit that refuses to settle for a life smaller than what it was built for. Listen carefully. You were never ordinary. I know that sounds like something people say. I know you've probably heard versions of it before and smiled politely and moved on without really believing it. But there's a difference between hearing something and finally being in a place where you're ready to receive it. And something tells me today might be that place for you. Type yes. If something in you already feels like this message was meant to find you today, think about the road that brought you to this moment. Not the highlight reel version of it. The real version. The stretches that nobody saw. The nights that went on longer than they should have. The times you held yourself together in public and fell apart the moment you were alone. None of that was random. None of it was punishment. Every single piece of it was doing something inside you that comfort never could have done, building something in the places that only difficulty can reach. You may have noticed that you feel things more deeply than the people around you, that you carry the weight of other people's moods without them saying a word, that you sense when something is wrong in a room before anyone names it, that you absorb pain, both your own and other people's, in a way that sometimes leaves you exhausted without being able to explain exactly why. That sensitivity is not a flaw in your design. It is part of what makes you capable of something most people were never built to carry. God has been preparing you. Not through ease, not through a life that went exactly the way you planned, but through every unexpected turn, every closed door, every season of waiting that stretched longer than you thought you could bear. Preparation rarely looks like preparation while it's happening. It usually looks like difficulty. It usually looks like confusion. It looks like a road that doesn't make sense until you're finally far enough along it to look back and see the shape of where it was always going. Comment. Amen. If you've ever looked back at a hard season and finally understood why it had to happen the way it did. Nothing about your life has been accidental. Not the people who hurt you. Not the plans that fell apart. Not the versions of yourself you had to let go of along the way. There is a thread running through all of it. A quiet, steady, intentional thread. And it has been pulling you in a direction that your circumstances alone could never have revealed to you. You couldn't see it from inside the hard seasons. Very few people ever can, but you are standing at a point right now where, if you're willing to look honestly at your own story, you'll start to see the shape of something that was never as random as it felt. Think about the things that tried to stop you, the situations that should have broken you but didn't. The moments where giving up would have been completely understandable, and yet something in you refused to. That refusal wasn't stubbornness. It wasn't pride. It was something deeper, something that knew, even when your mind was exhausted and your emotions were running on empty, that you were not done yet, that whatever you were here to do had not been done yet. And that knowledge, even unspoken, kept you moving forward one more day at a time. This is not random. The fact that you are still here, still searching, still open to a message like this one, after everything you've already been through, that alone says something about what's inside you. People who were meant for ordinary lives don't search the way you search. They don't feel the pull towards something more the way you feel it. That pull is not restlessness. It's not ingratitude for what you already have. It is a spirit that was given a specific assignment, and it hasn't forgotten the assignment even when the rest of you got tired. Type 90. If you felt that pull your entire life, that quiet sense that you were meant for something you haven't fully stepped into yet. There's a kind of loneliness that comes with being someone who feels and sees things deeply. The people around you might love you genuinely and still not understand you fully. They might mean well and still say the wrong things when you're hurting. They might be present in your life and still somehow miss the parts of you that matter most to you. That gap between being known and being truly understood is one of the loneliest feelings a person can carry. And if you've lived inside that gap for most of your life, I want you to hear this clearly. Being misunderstood by people doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you're simply further along than the conversation around you has caught up to yet. Think about what it means to be selected for something difficult. In every story worth telling, the ones who were chosen were also the ones who suffered more, waited longer, and carried heavier things than the people around them. That pattern is not coincidence. The wait is part of the preparation. The waiting is part of the formation. The suffering, as unfair as it is, has a way of building in a person something that cannot be built any other way. If your life has been heavier than you think you deserved, that heaviness was doing something in you that lighter lives simply cannot produce. Even in your hardest moments, you were being protected. I know that's hard to believe sometimes, especially when the hard moments feel like the opposite of protection. But think about how many situations you walked away from that could have done permanent damage to who you are. Think about how many paths you started down that closed before they could take you somewhere worse. Think about how many times something ended just before it would have cost you everything. That wasn't bad luck wearing a disguise. That was protection wearing one. Like this video, if you've ever realized, looking back, that something you thought was the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually quietly saving you from something far worse. There's a season in every chosen person's journey where everything gets stripped back. The relationships that were built on the wrong foundations, the opportunities that looked right but were pointing in the wrong direction, the version of yourself that you'd built for everyone else's comfort instead of your own truth. That stripping back feels like loss while it's happening. It feels like failure. It feels like the world closing in. But on the other side of it is something you couldn't have found any other way. A version of yourself that is more honest, more grounded, and more aligned with what you were actually built for. Chosen one, you've been in a season of rebuilding, even if it hasn't looked like that from the outside. Even if most days have felt more like surviving than building. Something has been going on underneath the surface of your life that your circumstances haven't fully revealed yet. And the thing about foundation work is that nobody sees it while it's happening. The most important part of any structure is the part buried deepest in the ground, invisible to everyone watching, but absolutely essential to everything that will eventually rise above it. Type yes if you feel like something is being built in you right now that you can't fully see yet, but you sense is real. Think about patience in a new way for a moment. Not as waiting with gritted teeth for life to finally give you what you've been asking for, but as trusting that what's being built in you during the wait is as important as whatever is coming at the end of it. The person who arrives at their destiny after a long and difficult road carries something the person who got there easily simply doesn't have. They carry the wisdom of the wait, the resilience of the road, the depth that only comes from having gone through something and choosing to keep going anyway. There is a divine timing over your life that does not answer to your schedule. I know that's one of the hardest things to actually accept. We live in a world that moves fast, rewards speed, and makes slowness feel like failure. But the most important things that have ever grown on this earth grew slowly. The tallest trees, the deepest roots, the strongest character. None of them arrived quickly, and none of them apologized for taking the time they needed to become what they were meant to be. God's plan for you is not behind schedule. It is not delayed. It is not being withheld as punishment. It is unfolding exactly as it was designed to, even in the seasons where nothing looks like it's moving. Trust is not the absence of uncertainty. Trust is choosing to believe in the direction even when you can't see more than the next step in front of you. Comment Amen if you're choosing today to trust God's timing even when the waiting feels longer than you expected. Think about transformation for a moment. Real transformation, not the kind that happens overnight, but the kind that happens slowly, quietly, underneath everything, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you respond to life differently than you used to. You're not triggered by the same things. You don't need the same approvals. You've released things that used to have a grip on you. You've become someone the old version of you could not have imagined becoming without going through everything that brought you here. That transformation is real, it counts, and it's not finished yet. You may have spent years carrying the weight of other people's opinions about who you are and what you should be doing with your life. The quiet pressure of expectations that were never really yours to carry. The constant background noise of comparison that makes your own pace feel like failure. That noise is loud, but it's not the truth. The truth is quieter, steadier, and more patient than the noise ever is. And the truth about you is that you were never meant to be measured against someone else's journey, because your journey was never built on the same blueprint as anyone else's. This is your confirmation. The one you've been waiting for, maybe without knowing exactly what you were waiting for. The confirmation that you are not lost, you are not behind, you are not broken beyond the point of purpose. You are in the middle of a story that has not finished yet, and the middle of a story always looks like confusion from the inside. But there is a reason this moment found you. There is a reason this message reached you today. And that reason has everything to do with where your life is about to go next. Type 120 if you are ready right now in this moment to stop apologizing for how long your journey is taking and start trusting where it's going. Think about the people throughout history who became voices of hope for thousands, millions, generations. Almost every single one of them had a private story of isolation, failure, and questioning before they ever became what the world remembers them as. The public chapters of their lives looked powerful. The private chapters looked like what you might be living right now. Ordinary mornings, quiet doubt, long stretches of feeling unseen, but something in them kept going, kept believing, kept showing up for the thing they were built for, even when no one was watching and nothing was confirming it yet. You are allowed to still have hard days and still believe that God is with you. Those two things are not in contradiction. Faith was never about the absence of difficulty. It was always about the presence of something steady underneath the difficulty, a foundation that holds even when everything above it is shaking. If things are shaking in your life right now, that doesn't mean the foundation is gone. It might actually mean the shaking is finally clearing away what was never meant to be permanent anyway. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that nobody talks about honestly enough. The exhaustion of someone who has been carrying a calling that they don't fully understand yet. Of someone who feels the weight of something they were built for but haven't stepped fully into yet. That exhaustion is real, and it's different from the exhaustion of someone who has given up. A flame doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to perform or prove itself or convince anyone that it's real. It simply burns, steady and present, and the darkness responds to it, whether or not the darkness agrees that the light belongs there. You have been that kind of presence in more places and for more people than you probably know. Your steadiness has steadied people who never told you so. Your faith has silently encouraged people who were watching from further away than you realized. This is not random. None of this is random. The struggles were not random. The growth was not random. The timing of this message finding you today is not random. Everything has been moving, sometimes achingly slowly, but always moving towards something your spirit has sensed for a long time, even if your mind couldn't name it. Trust that sense. It has been more reliable than the doubt that tried to override it all along. Comment, Amen. If you're finally giving yourself permission today to trust what your spirit has been sensing, even before it fully makes sense to your mind. Your pain was never the end of your story. It was always material, raw material for something that could only be built from what you actually lived through, not from what you read about or imagined or watched someone else experience. The things that hurt you most have given you the most specific and irreplaceable capacity to reach other people, understand other people, and carry things for other people in a way that a painless life simply couldn't have prepared you for. That doesn't make the pain okay. But it does mean the pain was not wasted. There is something inside you that has not been fully released into the world yet. A version of your purpose that hasn't fully emerged. A depth that hasn't been fully expressed. A capacity for impact that your current circumstances don't yet reflect. And that thing inside you, whatever name you give it, has been growing quietly through every season you thought was only taking from you. It was never only taking. Even the hardest seasons were also depositing something in you that will matter enormously when the time comes for it to surface. You were built for a season that is still ahead of you, and the road you've traveled to get there has been the very preparation you needed, even though it never looked like preparation from the inside. The confirmation you needed is this: you are still here, you are still open, you are still listening, and whatever brought you to this moment, through everything you've already carried, it has not finished with you yet, not even close. Type 1201 final time if you believe, even quietly, even with uncertainty still present, that the best of your story is still ahead of you, and that God has not finished writing it yet. If you've stayed this far, something in you needed every word of this today. You didn't come here by accident. You came here because something in your spirit was looking for exactly this: a reminder that you are seen, that your road has meaning, that your pain was not wasted, and that whoever you are becoming is worth every hard step it took to get here. You are chosen. You were always chosen. And this is your confirmation.